All right, we're at 7 stacks of Crusade, 25 stacks of Aura of Reckoning, stacking up, 10 stacks of Crusade. We're playing Radiant Glory, 50 stacks of Reckoning. We're approaching the extension. We're just gonna barely miss out on it. 65 stacks here. It's going up, it's going up. All right, you could clearly see that I was running Crusade. 85 stacks. Okay, randomly, pause. We have 100 stacks of Reckoning, and we have 7 seconds of Avenging Wrath Might. But the Reckoning stack hasn't gone off yet. And then we have Reckoning, and Aura of Reckoning, and Avenging Wrath Might. What the hell is going on here? What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with another video talking about more Retribution Paladin bugs. Now, almost all the bugs that I mentioned previously that I think were established as bugs were fixed. That includes the Hammerfall bug with Templar, Penitence, and Burn to Ash, and all the damage over time modifying talents over here. They were all fixed for release, which is freaking amazing. Absolute props to Blizzard for fixing those very fast. But we do actually have quite a few more bugs with Retribution. Some are actually major, and some are a little bit more minor. And I'm here to go over all of them and talk about the testing that I've done with some of the stat values for Ret, and also some of the PvP talent bugs. All right, so let's jump right into it. So we're going to take a look at the high priority bug list, something that I think should probably be fixed before the beginning of season 1. So I'm a PvPer here, so some of these bugs specifically apply to PvP over PvE, but some of them are actually PvE related as well. And let's start off with the most major bug right now. So that is that Dawnlights, so the main damage over time effect from Herald of the Sun, this spell here, is not actually affected by Retribution Paladin Mastery here, Mastery High Lord's Judgment. The main problem, so it's classified as a Radiant Damage over time effect. Radiant damage is both, I believe it's both Holy and Fire. All of our other Radiant spells and damage over time effects actually are affected by our Mastery. And I'm going to show you guys on screen real quick the number crunch that I did for the spells here. So I did 2 tests. I made sure that I had the same amount of strength, the same amount of versatility, the same talents, and no procs. So no proc trinket from PvP, and no authority of Radiant Power enchant equipped on my weapon. I used a different weapon, and I went in and I tested Dawnlights, Expurgation, and Truce Wake. Now, Expurgation and Truce Wake damage over time effects as Radiant damage, they're both expected to be affected by Mastery, and they were. So my first Expurgation test, I did it with 37% Mastery, and I tested it 3 times, and each time I got ticks of Expurgation for 30.4k, and I made sure just in case like we didn't crit any of the numbers. So 3 tests, 30.4k at 37% Mastery. Okay, great. The next test I did, I removed one of my rings, and both times I'll kind of describe what I did here. I took off the equivalent ring of the same amount of versatility, so we stayed with 21% versatility on the PvP dummy. And my mastery proc, with the lower mastery, the 33% mastery, it reduced the value of Expurgation to 29.4k. And I tested it 3 times. 29.4k was the consistent number. So the actual difference between the Expurgations was 1,000 even. And the expected difference of 4% mastery is 1,176, so 1,176. That is very, very close to the to the actual difference of 1,000. So I'd say that is working as intended. Like, in WoW, sometimes like you'll do the same spell over and over and it will hit a little bit different each time, but only like a couple hundred, or if it's a really big number, maybe a couple thousand. These numbers were almost identical, and the expected difference and the actual difference were very, very similar. The next test I did was Truce Wake. Same thing, 3 tests at 37% mastery, remaining at the same strength and versatility. No procs, no talents. The Truce Wake did 72.1k ticks, and then at 33% mastery, it did 69.7k ticks. The actual difference of the spell was 2,400, and the expected difference was 2,788. Again, that's a little off, but really not by much. There is a difference. There is a visible difference in the spells, and the actual versus expected is still within an acceptable range. The next test I tested the 37% mastery Dawnlights 3 times, and I got 69k even. And then I tested the 33% mastery Dawnlights times 3, and I got the same number, 69k. So the actual difference was literally 0. And I did remove the last 2 numbers. I think it was like 69,043, I'm pretty sure it was. And it was actually like 69,043 on both the 37 and the 33% mastery. But the expected difference would be about 2,760 per tick if mastery was correctly affecting Dawnlights. So I've kind of come to the conclusion, and I've heard from some other people that they've tested the same thing, that mastery is not affecting Dawnlights, and that's kind of a big deal. Actually, maybe it's not as big of a deal because mastery as a stat is getting nerfed, but it's actually not providing any value to Herald of the Sun in terms of increasing your Dawnlights. Now, there's a lot of things that I wonder, like, what is mastery not actually affecting as well? Like, is it affecting Sunseer radiant damage? I don't know. That requires a lot of testing. Is it affecting Divine Storm? This makes me wonder, like, how many things are just, put in the game and they don't actually function. Like, the next thing I'll probably test, honestly, is Holy Flames. It's supposed to be a 3% increase to holy damage, but I mean, is it really? I don't know. I'll have to test. So yeah, I really hope they fix the mastery scaling with Dawnlights before the start of the season. All right, the next bug, and this pertains to PvPers, and I still think this is a really high priority, is Aura of Reckoning. So Aura of Reckoning has been a staple of the main 3 PvP talents Ret has run since its inception. It's gone through a couple different iterations, but right now, every time you or your allies within your aura, so your what's it called, your devotion aura, are critically struck, you gain a stack of Reckoning, and you gain an additional stack if you're the victim of a crit. And then at 100 stacks, it transforms into a different spell. Or I'm sorry, like, it shows up as a different icon after it's finished stacking to 100. It changes to Reckoning. And then your next auto attack deals 200% increased damage, and it crits and it activates either Avenging Wrath Might or Crusade, whatever you have talented. Right now, this talent, when you're talented into Radiant Glory, doesn't function. If you're talented into Radiant Glory plus Avenging Wrath Might, I was not able to get it to stack up to 100. And if I was talented into Radiant Glory Crusade, sometimes I would get like around 30 or 40 stacks, and it would randomly convert into the Reckoning proc, and then it wouldn't go off. Like, it wouldn't do anything. My Crusade wouldn't proc. And I'm pretty sure if I did enough tests, like, that same bug would be replicated with Avenging Wrath Might. But regardless, it doesn't work with Radiant Glory at all. You will never get a proc of wings with Aura of Reckoning and Radiant Glory talented together. This is actually a very big deal in PvP because the Retribution PvP talents, aside from Blessing of Sanctuary and Blessing of Spellwarden, are extremely, extremely weak. We don't have many choices damage-wise to increase our damage in PvP. Lawbringer has been massively nerfed. It's only 2% of an enemy's health with Judgment. Luminescence is only a 2% increase for damage and healing. All these PvP talents that we used to have, and we used to have a lot of functioning ones, are nerfed into the ground, and pretty much you could play without them and you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. Talents like Spreading the Word are never chosen in PvP. Ultimate Retribution, never chosen in PvP. Wrench Evil will almost never be chosen in PvP. Searing Glare is an interesting talent and concept, and I ran it a little bit in the season 4 of Dragonflight, but again, it's just kind of a niche spell that really, it's not the best when you're considering the comps that you're playing as a Retribution Paladin in Arena. So yeah, we don't have very many choices. Hallowed Ground is an acceptable choice now that Consecration is baked into Blade of Justice. But I mean, I think all in all, Ret PvP talents are in need of a second look going into the future. Yeah, so Aura of Reckoning, it would be fantastic if that got fixed before the beginning of the season as well. All right, so let's talk about some of the other bugs that, I mean, they might eventually affect PvE as well. I'm not sure if mobs like can ground things or dodge or parry. I'm assuming mobs still dodge and parry. I don't know. I really don't know. But let's talk briefly about Templar now. So Templar, your main highlight of Templar is your Hammer of Light, that big boom paladin spell that you use after you cast Wake of Ashes. There's an issue with Hammer of Light where it's being classified as a melee attack, a ranged attack, a spell, physical attack. It's like all of the above. I'm not sure what Hammer of Light is supposed to be classified as, because currently you can ground Hammer of Light. So say you're a shaman and you see a paladin cast Wake of Ashes, it's a good idea to just immediately cast Grounding Totem, because you can ground the Hammer of Light. But that would mean Hammer of Light is a spell, right? That's really strange because it costs holy power and it's basically a melee attack. But you can't ground a spell like Final Verdict, which is pretty much the same thing. It's a spell range, but you won't ground the damage from Final Verdict. However, you can ground Hammer of Light. At the same time, you can also dodge and parry Hammer of Light. You can cloak and evasion Hammer of Light. You can Fist of Fury Hammer of Light. Mages have a very annoying interaction where they can blink Hammer of Light. So you will throw out your Hammer of Light, and as the animation is going down, they blink and the damage won't go off. Yet it will go on cooldown. And the same deal with Shamans and Burrow. You can Burrow and you can vanish Hammer of Light as well. So one of the reasons in my last PvP guide of why I was recommending Herald of the Sun over Templar is there are a lot of ways for players to avoid, even inadvertently avoid Hammer of Light damage right now. Granted, maybe that just makes it a higher skill ability to get off, but I mean, it does a lot of damage, but it's not doing the level of damage where like it should have that many counters to it. At minimum, I think if it's going to be classified like a holy power melee spender, you probably shouldn't be able to ground it, right? I think cheesing a grounding Hammer of Light is really annoying. So hopefully that can be changed at some point in the future. All right, in terms of other bugs, I'm going to talk about these as potential oversights, maybe not bugs, or maybe they're intended. I'm not entirely sure. But the first one is Divine Protection is 10% in PvP combat. Right now, so basically a while ago in beta, they nerfed Divine Protection in PvE. I believe when they split up Aegis of Protection and Shield of Vengeance into like, a split node on the talent tree. The PvP modifier for Divine Protection stayed in the game, so it changed PvP's version of Divine Protection to 10%. Now, if that's intended, I don't necessarily agree with it. 10% is an extremely low value for a 1 minute cooldown. I believe Barkskin is like 20%. Even D-Stance, like this is just putting a D-Stance on a 1 minute cooldown, something like that. I don't necessarily think it's like Ret is the squishiest thing in the game right now, but it's also not like unkillable. So I think it would be really cool to get the Divine Protection PvP modifier removed. And then maybe if that was removed, then maybe it would even open Aegis of Protection up as a viable route for the PvP talents. So maybe we would drop Shield of Vengeance sometimes. But currently 10% wall in PvP combat feels really low. The next bug that I'll talk about, and again, I'm not entirely sure that this is a bug or intended, is that Seal of Order. When you take Seal of Order and you're looking at your Blessing of Dusk buff, Blessing of Dusk increases your armor by 10%, your Holy Power generating abilities cool down 10% faster. This actually functions with spells like Final Reckoning and Execution Sentence when you're talented into Divine Auxiliary, even though they're not normally spells that would get cooldown reduction based off of haste or whatnot. But as far as I can tell, that's not working for Wake of Ashes. Wake of Ashes is not getting the 10% CDR off of Blessing of Dusk, which is actually kind of a big deal considering that both Herald and Templar are based around Wake of Ashes. So if that change was fixed, that would be really cool. That would be really cool. All right, guys, that is about it for bugs. I do have another guide coming on Templar shortly for all my Templar fans out there, including myself. Been playing a lot of Radiant Glory Templar and just Templar in general in PvP and really enjoying it. I think it's all... what was I? What word was going to come out of my mouth right there? I think it's absolutely amazing that it has two pretty much viable setups here. It's just obviously Templar has run into a little bit more problems. And Shake the Heavens, by the way, Shake the Heavens still is melee range. It's not it's not going off in any capacity outside of like that, I don't know, 6-7 yard range, which is fine since Hammerfall is fixed. At least we can increase our stacks with Hammerfall. But all right, that's about it for me today, guys, for this rambling video. Thanks for coming along and listening to me talk about some little red bugs here. Some of them not so little, actually, so some major red bugs. Again, please be sure to like and subscribe and follow and retweet and whatever and share this video because I would like to get these fixed before the beginning of the PvP season and PvE season. That'd be really cool since especially, you know, the Dawnlight change affects PvEers as well. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.